Welcome to In-Sanity, Lance. Glad to have you on. We've been friends and colleagues for quite a few years now. It's finally managed to get this recording done after months of trying. So, welcome.
Thank you for having me here. And it's not my first visit to Insanity.
No, I think, yeah, I mean, this is going to be the first official video of this.
Yes.
The name comes from my father going, "I'm insane. Do you want to be out of sane?" And I really like that idea. It's sort of stuck with me through my whole life. And I've watched these people that think they're sane, but they're actually in madness. So
Yes.
I thought it would be,
Reality is.
yeah, thought it'd be nice to name it along that and give a wee tip my hat to my dad. So
Well, it's a bit sorry.
yeah, we have known each other for quite a while. And I know that you, like me, started in more of a corporate world, but also have suffered through your childhood with debilitating headaches, really, wasn't it? It was migraines when you were younger. Is that right?
Yes. When I was younger, I'd have migraines every now and then. I just thought they were headaches. I had no idea of the difference between a migraine and a headache when I was a child. But in my early 20s, I had an MRI. I found out I had like this gigantic arachnoid cyst, like as big as my fist. It's 8 by 8 by 6 centimeters, roughly. And so I had that operated on, and by like the guy who is the best in the Southern Hemisphere. Uh, Now he's the guy that's not allowed to operate in Australia.
Is
Uh,
that a result of your operation? Or
no. I didn't do anything publicly to harm him. Just his reputation of being full of himself has proceeded to cause waves in his career. But the the day I woke up from that operation, I had a migraine, and it stayed 24/7 for nearly a decade. It was roughly about 9.5 years.
you
Just
were working alongside this, weren't you? You were working in was it an office
yeah,
environment?
held a full time job. I like moved into management, and like took a much more corporate role than just sales and stuff that I was doing at the start of that. So yeah, I had to get on with life. Like
Yeah.
I tried all the different interventions and nothing was working. It was just couldn't bear it. With that, I was also quite secretive. I'm not one to like getting like support and sympathy off people and stuff like that. So the job where it first happened, everybody knew what was going on. But the next job I had, no one knew about it. The one after that, I was poached from the original jobs. Main manager sort of thing. So he knew all about it. And so my direct bosses knew, and nobody I worked with knew. I just, unless I was at the old pain scale rating sort of thing, unless I hit a 9 or a 10, would just grit my teeth and
Keep quiet
move
then. Yeah.
through. Crash when I get home.
It really resonates. Like I had cluster headaches through my finance career, and no one knew that I was up all night with headaches. You just get on with things. You don't want the sympathy, do you? But I can't imagine
No.
it would be like having them all day, every day through my work day. I was lucky I had them at night, so it was just a lack of sleep by the time I got to work. But
Yeah, sometimes I was lucky and it fluctuated. Like the bulk of the time it was only like about a 5, so it wasn't insane all the time.
well, a five's pretty high on the SUD scale for pain, as far as I'm concerned, anyway.
Yes, but when the best you felt is 3 in close to a decade, that's
Yeah.
it's easy. Yes.
So
uh,
take
yeah.
you from there. Like, what actually eventually shifted it?
Uh, I, I question this a little bit now. This is something I've had some thought experiments about lately. So it started with like the operation was done the day after my birthday, so I always knew like when anniversaries were coming up because it's like my birthday tomorrow is going to be 2 years that I've had this migraine, 3, 4, 5 as the years go on. So with my 33rd birthday was where it hit the ninth year. And so that year was going to translate into it becoming a decade. And I hadn't tried any new interventions or anything for a few years. By this stage, I'd just come to acceptance of this is my lot. Like, get on with it. And I'd listened to like some podcasts and stuff. And one person I listened to, he talked about like 33 being like the Jesus year and like magic happens and all sorts of stuff like this. And his life got great. 33 and some other like guest he had on had that. And I was like, just in the back of my mind, I was like, having my 33rd party. And I'm like, tomorrow's going to be like 9 years. Like, it's about time to start something again. Like, if this is my Jesus year, I want something like miraculous to happen. So I'll try anything. And I made a thing to myself, no matter how weird it got, I'd go for it. I wouldn't like shelve anything because it was weird. Which, like in the first year, I shelved the idea of acupuncture because it was weird.
Look at you now, right?
it's it's got nothing on anything I do now. uh, and so, like, I tried different things. The first thing I tried was like a pain psychologist who like tried getting me onto like meditation things, and I had great misunderstanding of meditations with my aphantasia sort of view of the world. Was like, well, this just doesn't work when I'm going to people who are highly visual teaching me how to meditate. I can't do this thing. Uh, and so the bit where things shifted was I like met somebody who did Reiki on a business card. Turns out she doesn't do Reiki. She does other kinds of energy healing things, and just Reiki was the buzzword she wanted to go off.
I know that story.
Yeah, and so I tried that out, and I thought it was rubbish. Like, I was literally laying there, like imagining I'm like setting money on fire. Like, this witch is sitting in the corner reading a book or playing tarot cards. Like, this is the biggest scam ever, was where my mindset was at. And as you can imagine, like having a bit over 9 years of a migraine there 24/7, you got pretty good sensory acuity to what's going on in your head and around your head. Uh, and so I noticed something move, like something was being pulled out of my left temple. I was like, I nearly grabbed the side of the table I was on. My thoughts were, "Oh, holy fuck, this witch is actually doing something." Uh, I didn't like. I was really going there to cross something else off the list to just
Yeah.
say it's bullshit.
Get this one out of the way. On to the next
Yeah.
one.
And so I went back again. Weird stuff happened on like the second or third visit that I did that made me not quite sure if I wanted to go back, because that was breaking my like worldview
Yeah.
sort of thing. Like, I didn't know idiomotor stuff then, but idiomotor stuff was happening. My body was trying to communicate different things, and ever increasing levels of sensitivity of what was happening with the energy. And I always just presume it was something people do to you. And like I said, I was trying to work out this meditation thing and had been doing float tank therapies. So I Googled meditation class Newcastle this Saturday. There's normally people like myself and the Buddhist Center and stuff like this that have always got like meditation things on. Nothing come up, but a Reiki 1 class did, that was on that Saturday in a farm not too far away. And it said you could do it yourself, on yourself. I'm like, oh, well, I should do this. Like, it might like give me this much edge of maintaining what I'm getting out of my sessions I was having with Leanna. Like, maybe this will add to that and I'll get a little bit better. I wasn't expecting to heal myself or anything like that. Went along, learn it. After the attunement, being able to like feel that energy in my hand just like blew my freaking mind. Like, that sensation of being able to just have it at will. just was messing with like my worldview. I had to keep playing to find out more of what that was. And like a week and a half goes by,
Mm.
and there's no more migraine. I don't even notice the moment it left. I'm pretty certain I notice. I think I know when it happened.
Yeah.
Of a profound healing thing I did a night or two before that. But where I noticed it is I had like this man cave thing that I'd built, and I was like leaving that, and I was like standing in the liminal space of a doorway,
Mm.
1 foot in, 1 foot out, and I'm like, I've forgotten something. And I've got my keys, I've got my wallet, I've got my phone. Oh, I I don't have a migraine. I shut and locked that door quite quickly. I went to work. I did essentially stayed away.
I
I
love that
had
you sort of forgot the migraine. Like that's a beautiful little. Yeah.
yeah, uh, I, but I found that hilarious as well. As like this thing nagged me for so long.
Mm.
It wasn't like I noticed when it left my space. Like it should have been that obvious that like, yeah, it's gone. Okay, where did it just vanish to? Like it was here 2 seconds ago. Now it's not. This was it's not there, and it was in the afternoon. Like it wasn't morning time. And so I was like, oh, when was this?
I find it interesting that it came up in your psyche as I've forgotten something as well. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So given some of the other stuff that we do with hypnosis and other healing modalities.
Yes. So for a long time, my view of what fixed that was Reiki, um, and this healing I'd done on myself beforehand, where I wasn't expecting to heal myself. It was just me practicing to do things to help other people better. Uh, but I gave myself a pretty big suggestion there at my birthday.
Yeah. I got
And
a pretty big one from your friend as well.
yeah, and so there's there's a bunch of suggestion based things that happen along the way there that I'm like, well, how much of it was my own mindset and stuff like that? I'm not sure. Um, I do remember part of that thought initially was um, one of realizing those years stacking up of like there'd been a handful of like more than a handful, quite a few suicide migraines where
Yeah, I know that one.
you've had them before. You don't take them seriously, but they still carry some weight.
Yeah.
I was like, one day one of those might get me, or one day something might rupture with my head and like I die. Like there was a necessity that something had to be done, and this acceptance of my lot in life wasn't like exciting anymore.
Yeah.
And worst case scenario was some doctor would give me some new drugs to try that like would be fun.
So like suicide headaches are interesting because cluster headaches are also described as suicide headaches. But for anyone that doesn't suffer from them, that might sound quite bleak. And I'd be interested to see what your description of a suicide headache is.
My description of it is like it's insane. There's no way out. Like no medication helps. Not like the best I could do was knock myself out, like
Yeah.
with sleeping pills, sort of things, and painkillers to like be asleep enough though, just have a like groggy next day. But my understanding of it is it's just your consciousness coming up with a solution. Like nothing else can fix this. So it's like, well, he's all we've got left. Like,
Mine was like
on it.
I would wake up from sleep with cluster headaches. So they almost always happened when I was just going into the REM cycle of sleep. And so I tried taking sleeping pills one day for it, and that was a really bad idea. Instead of waking up at the start of the headache, I woke up at the full peak of the cluster headache, which was not
Ooh.
nice at all. So sleep wasn't an option for me. And there was never an actual danger that I was going to kill myself with them, but it was like that would stop them. And I think it's something that anyone else that's been suffering with cluster headaches or migraines for any extended time might have those feelings, and just to know that they're okay. We all have them. It's part of this dealing with intense pain.
Yeah, I wasn't scared of the thoughts, but I was scared of the idea that these thoughts
Yeah.
might gain power over another 10 years.
Likewise.
So yeah, um, I did at one stage wish I had cluster headaches, because in like looking for solutions, I'd found out, well, these cluster headaches are really bad, like what I was experiencing, but they come and they go. They're really narrow with when they're there, and apparently LSD can do amazing cures for them sometimes. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Psilocybin.
I could have a break and then I could have fun. Like, that sounds much better than this option.
The neurologist that came to see me in Perth actually mentioned that. He was like, there's a mushroom that grows wild in Scotland that would potentially give you remission from these. And I was like, what, you mean like magic mushrooms? And he was like, yeah. So I started microdosing magic mushrooms at that point. This was back before the Psychedelic Substances Act, Psychoactive Substances Act, and it was still legal to consume them in their raw form. But that did wonders for me. So.
Oh, I'd read something somewhere once. I can't find it since. I don't even know if it's true or not now. But that like psilocybin was incredibly bad for somebody with arachnoid cysts, which is what my thing was. So I was like, well, I'm not testing
No.
those theories.
I
Like,
tried pretty much everything, and I found out that the Amanita species had some of the precursors to GABA, specifically glutamate, I think it is. And cluster headaches are this misfiring of that core part of the brain that glutamate and the GABA system is affecting. So there's potentially a crossover there as well with dosing with glutamate, and B6 and B12, I think it is, are the precursors to GABA. So I came across that in an article on correcting sleep paralysis and restless leg syndrome in a couple of kids in India, I think it was. From there, from this start of your healing career and switch from corporate to the healer that you are now and the work you've done in the world, I'm curious as to like what really got you starting to look at things like, magnetism and hypnosis, and do you see a link between the suggestive stuff that happened on your 33rd birthday and the energy and somatic suggestions that are going on in Reiki or energy healing?
yeah. So I learned off of a couple of people. So like Reiki 1, I learned off just one guy. When I went back for Reiki 2, it was him and his partner. His partner was a hypnotherapist, as well as an energy healer. And I put this guy into a trance that was in the class. And I didn't know what a trance was. Like, I was just doing Reiki. Like, I had one day with a guy, and then I was on my own for months till I went back for this thing. And I was just experimenting and doing things that I thought seemed plausible and normal. The like cure of my migraine felt normal. The different things that happen with clients felt normal. People had practiced off. And so this girl was in a trance. She's like, hey, how are you doing this trance? I'm like, he's just asleep. She goes, if he was asleep, I couldn't do this. And she like grabbed one of those brass singing bowl sort of things. And she like sat it on his stomach and he didn't move. I'm like, so I'm just like, okay, then let's put it near his ear. And bang. And he still didn't move. She was like, if he was asleep, he would have woke with those things.
Yeah.
He's in a trance. You're doing hypnosis. What are you doing? I'm doing this thing. And so I put it on my list that I should learn hypnosis now because I don't know what I'm doing with this trance stuff. I should find out more because I had that fear that a lot of people have about hypnosis of like you can do something wrong with it. Really misplaced fear, but I had that. So I wanted to learn something about it. And I looked into things. And there was 3 schools I was picking between. One was like the Tad James NLP script based sort of school that I'm glad I didn't pick. The next one, I can't even remember who they were. Uh, and the third was Rick Collingwood. Uh, and I knew nothing about any of these 3. I couldn't work out how to judge what from the other. My cousin had listened to some of Rick's CDs and liked them. Uh, his class started on my birthday. I'm like, well, that's a nice sign compared to the others.
Yeah.
And I called and like, it wasn't some like big corporate thing. It was Rick answered the phone himself. He answered my questions. I felt comfortable. I went. And Rick's class was just that one that I went to. It was just inductions, essentially. It was just like rapid induction after rapid induction after rapid induction, and bringing people out of state. I'm like, I didn't need to know how to put people in hypnosis. I didn't learn how to
What I do once I'm in, I've got
deal with it.
Yeah.
So I didn't like ask the right questions anyway before I'd sign up for the thing. But the last day showed me exactly while I was there. He demonstrated his passion, mesmerism. Only guy in Australia that was doing mesmerism. And I happened to find out I'm in the Rare Museum, and I'm like, that's what I was doing. And interestingly, some of the stuff that I just did in those first couple of months where I was just on my own, following intuition, uh, I've read step by step procedures in old mesmeric books that describe it. I'm like, well, something within me or around me or within the energy itself knew the exact processes to be doing
Yeah.
and communicating this mesmeric thing to me before I knew it. That just gives me more questions than the
Yeah.
answers as well, though. But
There's an element in that, isn't there, of like, I mean, how much of what they did and wrote down in the books that they've written down was them following their intuition. And, we have the collective unconscious moving through generations of parents to our parents going back all the way. So is this intuitive work? And a lot of the really good therapists that I know are doing this still, like with whatever modality they're using, they're doing it intuitively. They're not following scripts. They might have a standard operating procedure like Bob Sops, to have a chat about the Swan in a bit as well, and your take on that and your book on it as well. But that idea of, okay, there's specific operational procedures that we can follow, but to jazz in that and riff in that and go with your intuition, I think is something that seems to be a constant in all of the good therapists that I know.
yes, I believe that is a big bit. Like I've jumped between the questions of was the ghost of a mesmerist hanging around me? Was I having a spontaneous past life regression, bit of memory of how to do something because I did this in a past life? But the one I mostly stick with is I was connecting with the energy, with this intelligent source that knows how to do stuff with itself. Like, you know how to do humaning quite well. I know how to do humaning quite well. Energy's going to know how to do energy quite well. I was listening to it for advice. Like, I was treating the intuitive things as my teacher. I don't know what I'm doing here. Let's do some experiments. What happens if we do this? What happens if we do that? What happens if an idea comes to me and I just follow it? So I think the thing that happens with all human interactions is there's an energetic layer that happens there, and if we're able to tap into that, we're, we're going to get a very big access to answers that might help. Um,
Do you think there's an element as well with this sort of non-verbal somatic energy work where people who have suffered immense amount of pain seem to have a predisposition to being slightly or finding it slightly easier If you've gone through that potential, facing your own death or ego death and years of pain, do you think that has an effect on how easy it is for someone to go into that path and pick it up?
I think it does, but I've pondered this one a lot because I had a lot of feedback early on that I was like doing amazing things with energy, and that mismatched what I felt I was doing. Like I was the novice, I was the kid who knew nothing about like this world. I should be terrible, and it's confronting to hear I was doing good things when I'm like, don't tell me how to do it. Like you're doing it. Why don't you tell me how to do it? Uh, and and I've watched people like I've taught thousands of people Reiki now, and I've watched like what makes people better at doing Reiki and energy healing things. And I don't necessarily think it's the experience of suffering you've been through. I think it's the experience of whether or not this thing changed the way you experienced that suffering. So
Yeah, that's
I went
fascinating.
within like before I learn it, having this wow of like that stuff doesn't happen. I haven't felt this thing come out of my head before. I haven't felt my arms move without me moving them before. This thing is powerful. I'd done a lot of things with spiritual traditions before, and I'd never felt an energy of God before. And I'd tested stuff out a lot before. I never got that
Mm.
personal relationship thing happen. Then I learned how to do it, and it's like a week and a half, and it's gone. Like I, I tried an amazing amount of interventions that didn't put a dent in the thing. Like I didn't have a second without pain in that like 9.5-ish years. Like I remember praying and like being like, if there's a point to this, just pause it for 1 second for me, just to show that like something is listening.
Mhm.
And nothing got paused. Didn't help for adding to that faith. But a week and a half, I'm not even trying to do the thing. I'm just trying to do drills and experiments to work out how to do stuff with these things so that I might be able to help heal myself later. And it's gone. Now, there's faith and there's trust.
Mm.
Um, I had faith in it before that, but after that healing happened, I now had massive amount of trust to go with that faith because I've got some evidence this did something.
Yeah.
Uh, the way energy works, I think that whole like believe in one aspect of Poisika's thing
Mm.
carries a lot of weight. Like you got to believe this works and you got to want it to work. I had the desire first. I had the belief because something weird was happening, and then I got this big proof. There's nothing anybody could do to shake my faith and my trust in the energy healing works now because nothing else could do that for me. Uh, I now have little question marks of how much is self suggestion and interpersonal relationship with my unconscious, but there's definitely still an energetic aspect
Yeah.
to that now.
Like if we look at that, there's not really anything but energy in the universe. We don't like
Yeah.
physical matter doesn't exist. It's all energy and information. And thoughts are energy and information. The nerve movements that create your arm moving, it's all energy and information.
Mm.
So I think for me anyway, there's a link between understanding and believing that everything's just energy and everything that I experience is within my own mind. So with the procedure stuff, there's this belief, will, and intent, and that ties in with the studies that they did on Reiki, I believe, where they were looking at the expectancy of the person being given the Reiki was skewing the results. So they redid it with rats, I believe it was, and the people who believed that they could do it, whether they'd been attuned or not, were able to produce a parasympathetic arousal by waving their hands over the rats, whereas the people who, even if they'd been attuned, didn't believe in it, didn't get the parasympathetic arousal. And I found that really interesting.
Yeah, but the the attunement does stuff.
Yeah.
But the attunement's not like the be all and end all of whether or not somebody can do energy healing.
No.
It's whether they can do this specific frequency of energy healing of Reiki, and it just amplifies the volume. It doesn't turn it on.
No.
Um, for some
But
people, it might turn it on, but it's we're humans. We've got an energy system. We've still got access to that. So if somebody believes they can do it, then they're going to be pushing more of their own energy into those
my
rats. And
my question in this with the Reiki attunement is how much is that a ritual that creates a novel state that allows us to open that channel ourselves rather than so like if you were to attune me, is it really you attuning me or are you producing a ritual that allows my channels to open themselves? And that way, doing a self attunement in a specific way, if you can build the thought forms in the right way and create the beliefs within yourself and the faith within yourself that you can do this, yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah, I've done self attunements. Um, they work quite well. But the healing that I think did the healing for me,
Mhm,
uh, I was doing self attuning. I had no idea what self attuning was back then.
mhm.
I didn't know how to do an attunement back then, but the process I did matches exactly the attunement process.
Like, and your
Uh,
intuition's guiding you through it.
exactly. But yeah, like um,
It just
I've done
helps.
different experiments with attunements before,
Mhm,
and what seems to be key bits in it do not always seem to be key bits in it.
yeah.
The key bit, I believe, of what is there. Probably some Reiki master is going to get upset that I even explain this to anybody to hear. But anyway, it's all about giving healing people. Just think of that before you flame me. Uh, the key bit, I think, is I get people to have an opening, accepting attitude to be connected to the energy before we begin.
Mm,
It's they're having this step in with it. And my intention is to open them up to be the best healer they can be. Uh, I do feel there is something with anchoring the symbol into their field, but I've done like other things without using symbols
mm,
to get similar results. But I do notice symbols seem to work better for people after they've been
yeah.
actually attuned to that. But
And
yeah,
on the idea of symbols, when you were doing your mesmerism magnetism training, did you go through the symbols in that as well? Have you trained with Marco as well? Is that
I haven't trained with Michael as well. No, but I know he uses alchemical symbols and stuff with that. I haven't checked what ones he uses and stuff. I've done a lot of
yeah?
my own alchemical symbol experiments. I notice I get some good results with it. The main thing I use is planetary based things, which from descriptions of things people write about what they saw around Mesmer's place, I think the same philosophy fits. I can't prove he was doing astrological, magical based things as well, but
I think the chances are pretty high.
yeah, I think so.
Given
Considering the
what I know.
circles he ran in,
Yeah.
uh, his thesis been on like connecting with the sun and the moon and stuff as well. With it, I think I'm intuitively on the right track.
Mm.
But it still feels different to what mesmerism feels like for me.
And
Uh,
if someone was getting an attunement from you, would you recommend doing it in person over distance?
I've got one online that anybody listening to this can do.
Yeah.
I'll send you a link later that can put it in the show notes. But I do. I've had a lot of people do that and be able to do things,
Mhm.
and then they've come for a class with me in person, and the feedback has been it's amplified when they've had an in person one.
Yeah.
Uh, but again, my thing sits with that is how much of that is the belief of the person listening to the thing going, this is online, it's not going to be as strong.
It sort of leads me into this question about, some form of in-person implicit modeling that's going on when we see someone doing something there in front of us and we're in their energy field. Because I think the Heart Math Institute measures our heart field something like 21 feet around us at all times. and they can tell our emotional state from the electromagnetic field of your heart and things like that, allegedly. I've never actually gone and seen the research myself and looked at how they're doing it, but this is the claim, isn't it? And also from one person's brainwave, they can tell how many people are in the room and what all of their heart rates are from their EEG. That's like
Cool.
That's cool. So is there some form of osmosis or something like that when we're in person with someone doing these things? I know, like, I'd been trying to do overtone singing for years, and when I actually saw the Kyoto monks in person, I came out of that being able to overtone sing. And I think there's something in person stuff over.
There is, yes. My we can get weird. My frame of how consciousness works is not one that's popular against most hypnotherapists or neuroscientists or most people. uh, the operating structure I work out of, and I still follow Bob's like thing that he's drilled into me, real or imagined. I still sit with that with this, but my view is our emotions and our memories and all of the who we are is not in this pink squishy thing of mine that gave me that pain for so long. Yeah, this is the antenna that picks up on the field that's around us, and so all of me is more often than not outside of me, and I'm picking up what I need from that field as I go. So when I'm in presence with you, you're in all of me.
Yeah.
And I'm in all of you, and so we're picking up with so much more of each other's stuff. And I've noticed this too often as well, that you will literally pick up on my thoughts, whether I'm doing mesmerism and projecting them to you or not. I I like I was floored by this once years ago. It was like around that second lockdown sort of time, but not quite, like close to it. It was I was still going to the office, but it's getting close to when we we're getting shut down again, I think. And I'd been in the office and I had these really, really interesting, thought provoking conversation with a client that, and I'd come home from work and like my office was 45 minutes drive away. And I'm sitting on the lounge and my partner at the time was in the kitchen. Kids are playing, and my mind is just replaying this thing and like questioning myself of different avenues of that conversation. Nothing that's ever been brought up in that household before, nothing that my partner at the time had ever expressed any interest or knowledge or understanding of. And she comes over and she starts that conversation with me. I was like,
Yeah.
this is a weird territory. But that stuff happens all the time.
Yeah. And like science is actually trying to frame this with things like cognitive coherence and mirror neurons and all of this sort of these modern constructs and ways of explaining what's going on here.
Hmm.
Like this idea of brainwave coherence in groups of people as they're communicating and brainstorming ideas and things like that. And the balancing of heart rates and things like that go on in groups. And I think, like, from my own experience working with groups, especially with things like meditation and various different trance things, they go much deeper, much quicker when there's a group of people doing it than an individual.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Group dynamics, you get one or two people into a trance thing, everybody else falls into it
Yeah.
really easy.
And it makes me think of the Backwets, the Mesmer would
Yeah.
seances, room full of
I've
people.
I've done meditations quite often, and I included energy based stuff in it quite early on, for a lot of things with group stuff. And I've noticed a fair few times, like the idiomotor sort of stuff that happens with mesmerism. It's not idiomotor. It's just like the crisis sort of stuff that's happening. Uh, the same thing will happen with multiple people.
Mm.
Like multiple people, it's their left arm that's shaken, and it's mostly like their middle finger that's twitching on that, or it's their right pinky toe, or whatever.
Mm.
It's just like a bunch of people who are having the same part of their body twitch and jolt. It's like
It's weird.
that doesn't happen.
It's interesting, and it sort of raises the question that, when we're doing stuff in group, I know, or I believe in the Huna system, they used to sit and do things like ha breathing together, with the village, which would produce this parasympathetic arousal. But is there an aspect, do you think, of us as communities doing these healing events going back throughout history? We still see it in tribal cultures today, that they do these ceremonies together. They don't go off into the middle of nowhere and do them on their own. It's a group thing, unless you're training to be a shaman or something like that.
Yeah, uh, Russian mythical thing is it's reverse. You go off in the wilderness on your own to do the meditation and whatever, and a town grows around you.
Right.
Most Russian towns were started by a mystic walking off to be on their own, and like somebody comes to study with them, then somebody else, and this town grows around them.
Cool.
Becomes a group thing.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think it's it's a core part of the human connection
Mm.
thing. Uh, yeah, and you watch groups, like, even if there's not trance involved, like, people start falling rapport with each other.
Mm.
Somebody will become an unconscious leader and other people will become unconscious followers with that.
Yeah.
Uh, Even if there's not direct sensory, like, link to that person, like how you copy the movements of somebody behind you that you can't see,
Mm.
that that says something deep is happening on this other
Yeah.
unconscious level.
It certainly indicates that there's something going on, that's outside our current understanding of things from a scientific perspective, if we'll put it that way. I think there's an element of this, with the ideas of Poisager, and also the ideas in hypnosis, really, of going first.
Mm.
You know, how much of that is going into trance first, and how much of it is going into a monoideistic trance and having that single pointed focus around, this healing's already happened. This is a formality. This is the ritual to allow that to happen. And I sort of get the idea that when you're doing the Reiki attunements, that's the frame that you've got from what you said here.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I go with more the latter. I think it's definitely that. Everything else in the world disappears, and you're holding intention. Like, I, I notice a difference when I do and don't have a meditation practice in my life,
Mm.
but there's a caveat to that now. And now that I've got a clinical practice that has been going on for so long, there has been times that I've like dropped my meditation practices, and I haven't noticed a drop in like the effects, unless I'm on holidays as well at the same time.
Mm.
Because when I'm in session with somebody, it's a meditation. There's only one thing my mind is focused on: is this person, their issue. How do we get this issue to be the positive opposite of what it is? And that's all I'm holding the whole time. Is like, they're coming in after this thing. What's a positive opposite of this that we can turn this into? How can we like get rid of this problem or get them closer to their goal? How can we like turn whatever this negative thing is and take the strength of what their unconscious is doing negatively impacting them into being a positive? And I don't notice the other sounds outside of my room. Um, Nothing plays into it. So I'm not going to a trance first. Occasionally, I will
Well,
intentionally.
is that not
Occasionally,
trance in itself? Like the word itself,
yeah,
as believe, means to cross over to something else.
yeah.
I believe it was originally associated with the crossing over into death, but
Interestingly, my view of how the word trance ended up in hypnosis was from the spiritualist movement.
hmm,
Uh, and it was, you're in a trance where something else crossed into you to be able
right,
to communicate that.
yeah,
Uh, that is my view of where that entered our world.
yeah.
Uh,
I suppose that ties
it
in a
was
lot.
still existing before then, but that was the framework, I believe, where it entered mesmerism and and hypnosis.
Right. That's interesting, because I sort of class everything as being trances or frames or states or objectives as being almost synonyms for each other. And I look at the corporate worlds that when I was in, you would see who has the strongest frame in the room, who has the strongest trance in the room, would be the one that, like the manager would look at last before they made the decision or things like that. And they would control the entire dynamic of the room. So I started playing with this when I was learning NLP, like, changing my state while I was in meetings and slowing down my breathing and breathing very diaphragmatically and making myself asymmetrical or symmetrical and doing things like that and seeing how it shifted the meeting. And quite often I would find myself as the mediator between the IT guys and the finance guys who spoke different languages, because I was able to stay in that state of presence and hear what they were both saying. And they were saying the same thing, but with different language and arguing about it.
Yeah.
So
Presence makes a huge difference with anything.
yeah. There's a chap, Vadim Zealand. I don't know if you've come across him. Reality trance. I think I was put onto him by James Tripp. And
No.
he's got this explanation of presence in Tufti the Priestess, I believe it is, where he's talking about the two screens. So being aware of what's going on out there and what's going on in here at the same time. And that being present. So just being aware of what's out there is not true presence. You have to be aware of response in us. And this actually came up in a session with a client the other day where I was able to describe the sensations that she had in her body as we were talking. And I'm feeling it in my body as I'm observing her. And I'm sort of seeing an overlay. I'm aphantasic as well, so we can have a chat about aphantasia in a minute as well. And I know we've spoken about this before, but this idea of being aware of what's going on in you, I'm curious as to see if you're getting something like that with your Reiki and magnetism stuff as well, and even just in sessions and hypnosis and whatever else you do.
There's a whole spectrum of where it can be. My view of presence is everybody's presence, no matter how good you are at it, is going to be extremely limited. Like that whole view of like the distortions and deletions we have of everything we're pulling into our conscience to be able to make sense of, we're going to lose a lot. We're going to focus on different ones, do it like how people do that, like 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, taste, feel, like all the rest of that sort of stuff to help limit anxiety and whatever. They're trying to force a presence without being connected to anything around them, but start plugging into different things. I've had a handful of really, really profound healing experiences where I felt energy at like really big difference to anything else. Like one of the first times was like that healing that happened in that first couple of weeks made me chase the dragon. Like it was like, here's the potential. I can't reach that at a daily thing now. Like I can do work to build up to that for weeks and I still can't reach that level. That's still out of my grasp to get. But there was another one that was probably secondary to that. That still again is out of my grasp of what I can achieve normally. But I mean, this is going to be hard to describe. Remembering aphantasia, I'm not seeing things with this, but it was like the Matrix code thing. So it's not like I could see like green ones and zeros and like characters and whatever that build the framework of everything.
Be worried if you
But
did.
it was, but I was laying on a table and I could feel where the energy of everything was. Like all the people in it, I could feel outside of the wall of the room, and the room was big. Like it was a big room, but I was feeling like trees that were 20, 30 meters away, that I could feel the blueprint of everything. And it was too hard for my mind to comprehend how I was sensing where everything was and how everything was. But I could feel the everything of everything in that moment. And it was only like for a brief moment. And then like weird stuff happened that took my attention away from all that other stuff. And it all just fell away. And I was like, this thing is interesting that's happening. Uh, so yeah, the presence, I can get a great bit out of somebody that I'm with. Uh, Over the years, I've put a lot of barriers in that I don't really necessarily want to feel what other people are feeling. So I don't get as much of that now as I used to. But I'll get impressions of what I need to do.
So I'm curious about that, like that you don't feel what other people are feeling in the same way as you used to. Is that a barrier or limitation, or is that a healthy boundary? And do you think there's a shift in, you know, like being empathic? Like the empath idea, I think, is comic book territory rather than, but being empathic, we get a sense of what we would feel like in that situation. And for someone who's very sensitive, they'll maybe really live that experience. And a lot of the work with like seeing your unconscious as this storehouse of emotions and memories and separating yourself a little bit from that as being the awareness that observes. I think for me anyway, it has allowed me to separate myself from experiencing that in the way I used to. But it's not that I've put up a barrier, it's that I've evolved into sitting in the awareness rather than sitting in the emotion. Does that resonate?
Yeah, a little bit. So with this, I've pondered how much of this was from me talking to the energy and how much of this was incidentally doing self hypnosis before I knew what self hypnosis was. But when I started doing energy healing, like it would kick on its own.
Mm,
And so, like, I'd go somewhere and my hands would heat up and start tingling. And I'd be like, well, I'm not in a spot where I can just heal anybody here. Like, I don't have permission. And
mm,
like, this isn't helpful. Or I'd be walking along and like my knee'd get weak. And then I'd see this person on a crutch, or like my back would get really sore. And then I'd see this person like hobbling over on like a frame. Uh, all the emotional stuff, like that was just happening every time I went out in public, and I did not like that. And I was trying to work out ways of getting around that, and I was, like, talking to the energy afterwards saying, "I don't wanna experience that. I don't need to experience that. That's not the right context."
mm,
Just when I'm in a room with somebody to do Reiki, that's all fine. But then it started to be like I had a clinical practice and, like, my elbow would start hurting, and I'd go to that person's elbow and start healing it, and my elbow would stop hurting, and I'd be like, I think this is better to have an impulse to go to their elbow,
mm.
not have my elbow hurt. And so stuff like that after sessions of just like communicating what I did and didn't like about it set these different boundaries. And sometimes now it probably could be beneficial to like feel what somebody's feeling to tap into it better, but not necessarily.
Mm.
So the last time it really happened was quite a while ago now. But I was doing a thing at like a new age fair, like I was just doing 15-minute energy healing sessions, and they were basically just a quick chakra cleanse, and that was it. Everybody was getting the same thing. I wasn't doing intuitive processes, like 15 minutes, $15, just like have an experience. But I got this really like sharp pain on my shoulder while I was working with this woman. And I was like, poke, just touched her on that same spot. She literally bounced off the table. It was like clear.
Mm.
She had this huge zap, and I felt the zap off my hand. Um, it cleared something for her. She emailed like a week later saying like how amazing she felt and like how do I know how to do what I did, and it's like I just knew I had to touch you there. That did something, and it had that spot had nothing to do with what she had going on, but there was this spot that the energy knew it could do what it could do. Uh, and so that crossed my boundaries, but it wasn't detrimental to me, and it caused a huge difference for her. So I was happy with that one. But the rest of the time, it doesn't really happen now.
With things like that, do you feel that? So I went through a phase where I would ask, "Is this pain my pain?" And if it's not my pain, let it go. And I was doing this in sort of earlier mesmeric sessions that I was doing. And I would quite often find that the pain would just disappear. And I'd be like, okay, this is them. And then I'd ask them at that point. But now it's almost like there's an overlay that I can be aware that this isn't my pain, but I'm feeling something in this shoulder. So I'll just, like, it's not even like it's pain, but I mean, my relationship to pain's shifted as well.
I did actually have it last week because I was doing modeling in master prac stuff, and so I'm staring in a trance at this guy doing some like martial arts based stuff. He's got a few injuries in his body, and two of them were really obvious because they were strapped. But my knee really started to hurt while I was in this, and I was like, "Oh, I know what this is right now. This is Brad's knee."
So it does
And
come through when it needs to.
so but it was because I was intentionally trying to absorb
Yeah.
who he was and what he was doing for the practice that we were doing. But I just broke state and like brushed off his energy and disconnected in the way I was connecting to then reconnect back in. I was right because it was distracting from the thing that I wasn't trying to like model how he experiences pain. I was trying to model how he does a martial art.
Yeah.
Um,
There's an idea of, you know, I had a friend tell me about this thing that someone had given him a suggestion of asking the part that allowed his eyes to open to switch off and the part that kept his eyes to close to switch on. And it was the first time he got an eye lock on himself. And I'm wondering if, can we just ask the part that's in control of allowing us to feel that energy to switch on and switch off?
I think so. Um, I had I had a really interesting self experience a couple of years ago. So that migraine when it disappeared, it stayed gone for 9 years. So it didn't quite make it to 9.5 years. It come back briefly.
That's interesting.
Uh, yeah, and my first impulse was to heal it away, and I was like, no, 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 it kind of reappeared all of a sudden for no reason. Like there's a message behind this. Like what do I tell my clients? Like look for the signal of what this is first, and let's deal with that. And so I sat like to get the signal of it. I didn't properly acknowledge it for a couple of months because I didn't like the message of what it was telling me. Uh, as it kind of has to get that loud to make me notice it. But the moment I acknowledged what it was actually trying to tell me and said I would do something about it and wouldn't accept the the thing in my life that was causing the problem, uh, the pain stopped instantly. But I could energetically feel where all that pain was. So it didn't hurt anymore. Now I just had like a Reiki buzz uh, in that part of my head, taking the exact same shape as what it was, same intensity, just no pain.
Hmm.
Uh, and I was like, well, here it is. It's just changed like form of how it interacts with me. And it's like message acknowledged. I'll give you what you need, but I'm still here.
There's something in that, in my understanding of pain's a perception rather than a sensation. And when I was doing the Vipassana, like there was the evening I sat basically like my whole body was on fire for about half an hour before the end of the session that night. And the next morning I sat and the sensations were there, but the pain wasn't. So I was looking at these sensations and this heaviness, pressure, pulsing, tingling, heat or coolness. So you've got these four elements in the sort of alchemical of earth, water, air, and fire. And like with the cluster headaches that I had anyway, there was a pulsing, so there was water and there was a tingling. And I can easily see how if my brain wasn't processing that as pain and activating the pain center in the brain, it would feel very much like a Reiki buzz. So I'm curious as to like, did you notice as that disappeared, did the sensations actually change or did the pain just remove itself? Like that pain center just switched off?
It was instantaneous switch. It was like I verbalized, I acknowledged what this thing is, and I won't accept it anymore. And it just went. from A to B
Yeah.
instantly.
So it's like we don't need to activate this part of the brain that's really for signaling, because that same pain center in the brain's the part that deals with emotional empathy as well, because they found paracetamol, as it's shutting down that center, also lowers your empathy.
Oh,
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I'm curious as to, like, is that area just an area that's part of the messaging system for us? And it's a
maybe.
curious little thought that, I've got the message, doesn't need to give you the messaging center in the brain anymore, so it switches off.
Yeah. I got paranoid. I did some things after that to like re-experiment with that thing. Like, acknowledged core need wouldn't be there. Could I make this thing work with other elements there? And I was like, this pain's gonna start back again. I'm gonna have to like stop this experiment. But it never did.
Yeah.
Like from that evening, like by the time I woke up the next day, the energy feeling wasn't even there for it anymore. I thought it would have come back in, and it didn't. There's two other times, very very briefly, that it popped back in to like just highlight something small around the same theme, and as soon as I acknowledge that, disappeared again. So now I just take that as part of my body's like emergency signaling system, and so um, that's part of why I reflect back of, well, how much of it originally was Reiki, and how much of it was like me fed up with the spot I was in to go, let's do something different. I'm ready to like take on the thing I don't want to take on now.
I'm sort of very much of the opinion that, we've been separating out sciences and putting them in these little silos and constructs of this is this, this is this, this is this. And at the end of the day, we can't possibly separate all of this stuff out. All we can say is this is healing, or this is not
Yes.
healing.
Oh, I've I've studied a lot of things in the healing arts over the last decade and more, and I think the more I've found out and the more I've understood, the more questions I have, and the more it highlights we've got no freaking clue what's happening. Uh, because you think you've got a pattern, and then you realize you don't, or there's this other element to that pattern that now just makes all your data like, I don't know. Uh, but that's inspiring because that says, well, there's something way bigger than us
Yeah.
involved with that. Whether that's just the us as a collective, or there's something outside of us, or what. I don't care what the answer is, but it's nice to know that whatever it is, it's trying to work with us. Like, and energy's been my best teacher about energy-based stuff, and it always seems to be receptive if I've got a question to try and get that answer through my, like, dumb ape brain.
Yeah. And how much of that are you doing through things like the Swan and ideomotor?
Quite a lot. That ebbs and flows of how much of it is my priority at all times, but it's inexplicably linked. Like, even when I get energy healing, like, my body signals.
Yeah. You
Uh,
you must.
I Sorry.
Yeah. On you go. Carry on.
Um, it, it I can't separate idiomotor stuff from energy stuff. I think they are a pair. Like I said, the energy's around us, and this thing is a signal. It's just nerves and neurons. It's the same thing that's running through my arm.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's my story
yeah.
with clients as well. Like, wiggle your fingers. How are they doing that? It's energy going from your brain to your fingers.
Yeah. Is it going from your brain to your fingers though? Like,
Yeah. Well, it's
could
the
be
same
running down
as.
the arm. Could be going separate. There's a guy who I taught Reiki Masters to, who he'd learnt Reiki 1 and 2 beforehand, but he was sharing with me when he was doing Masters that, he cut his foot under a lawnmower years before, severed some nerves,
Yeah.
and a couple of his toes he could never feel. But after doing a lot of energy work, he could feel and move those toes again.
Yeah.
Did he somehow heal the nerves and rejoin them? Or did his energy system work out how to hop
Well, I've
through the
got a
field
friend.
back into it?
Yeah, got a friend that did this with a bicep. He was a downhill mountain biker, snapped the nerve in his bicep, and they couldn't find the second half, the bottom half of the nerve to reattach it. And like, you'll never use your bicep again. He spent 6 months breathing energy into it. His father was, his grandfather was actually the guy that taught my father. And I'd met him in Edinburgh and started, like, became friends with him, and then found out there was this family connection with him. But yeah, he was breathing energy in and breathing the darkness back out every day for 6 months and regrew the nerve and got full use of his bicep again. This, like, according to medical science, is essentially impossible as far as they're concerned. And some of the stuff I've done with my lungs has been technically impossible according to the doctors. And it sort of brings me to this idea of, the miracle healing, because this is still happening in the placebo group. And, we get these spontaneous remissions of stage 4 cancer and things like that. And I'm curious as to, like, you've done a lot of interesting stuff over the last couple of decades. What have you experienced that you would class as being those sort of miracles? And is there a running theme of a novel state experience going alongside that, do you think?
Um, I got humbled quite early on from getting egoed quite early on. Well, I could heal this within myself. The first paying client I had, she had a shattered hip, like she'd been in a car accident. Uh, After a second session, she got up carrying her crutches.
Mm.
She had a dancing step. She was like going downstairs that she couldn't, like, she struggled to get up going in. Uh, that like and I was still, like, in my 33rd year. So I can imagine the sort of bullshit story I told myself. I was like, "Holy crap." I'm Jesus level healer here. This is amazing. Uh, the next week, she was just as bad.
Mm.
She'd had a couple of great days.
Mm.
Hip was still shattered. Uh, but the healing gave, like, it took the pain away and it gave mobility back. And she saw me, like, every week till she got a hip replacement. And so there was miraculous level healing, but there was still reality there at the same time. The energy could only do so much, and it had to, like, keep getting topped up. She had to keep using her crutches. There was stuff there with that, and so I found that very humbling to go, well, this stuff is incredibly powerful, but it's not always going to do miracle level stuff. Uh, there's stories often in Reiki classes of, like, Yusui breaking his ankle and, like, doing healing on it in the forest, and, like, he's okay and he can keep walking again. And don't heal somebody if you see somebody on the side of a road with an accident and they've got a broken bone. Don't do Reiki on them because you might just fuse that bone back together and then, like, it's set wrong and it's got to be rebroken and reset again. And I'm like, if I was that miraculous of a healer,
Mm.
I'd just stay with the person and, like, yeah, doctor's got to re-break it. Just brace yourself for a second. You won't feel pain for this. Snap, vroom, healed again. There you go. You don't have to send, like, 8 weeks in the cast. Are you happy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Come back again. Uh, they're gonna love that, but that doesn't happen in my experience. I had a broken toe. I gave it that much bloody break. It wasn't funny. I still had to wear a moon boot. I got ahead of myself. I took the moon boot off like a fair few weeks early. Turned out to be a bad idea. I had to put the moon boot back on. uh, we've got things that we can work around stuff, but I can't just make magic happen. I really want to
Yes.
do yet. There's stuff that's esoterically written about people, like, doing teleportation and stuff like that. It's like cities in India, and there's some mesmeric links to that sort of stuff happening as well. I believe one day there's a chance I might be able to, like, tap into that gift, but I can't do that yet.
Yeah.
And if that happens, is that just I can appear to somebody but I've still got to be sitting in my room, and in my head, I'm in my room, but I'm appearing to the person and can have an interaction with them? Or can I physically manifest my body somewhere else? I got no freaking idea. But they're wonderful questions to have to ponder when you want to work out how magical the world could be, and to take some limitation off what blocks you put on yourself.
It sounds very much like the stories my father brought me up with, that the inner child in me still wants to believe that there's a possibility, but the adult skeptic's like, yeah, prove it.
Yeah, but what you've just said there, that's not skepticism.
No.
Skepticism is you're truly balanced on this fence, and whatever way the wind blows is what way you fall. People I know of that are skeptics, they're like that. Prove it works. Uh, you're a firm believer in non-belief, and we're raised in Western culture to be firm believers in non-belief. Um, it's great to get ourselves back on that actual skeptic fence.
I love this idea that belief is faith-based and knowing is empirical, and that
Mm.
you can put beliefs on like you can put on clothes. So you can take off and put on beliefs. So I can put on multiple beliefs at the same time that are essentially on different levels of reality, like the belief that the sun's breathing life into the universe and black holes are breathing life back out of the universe, almost like the lungs of something beyond our creation. And at the same time, I can hold a belief that the sun's a ball of gas on fire giving us light. And they're not contradictory. They can exist on two different planes of reality. One's a spiritual plane and one's a physical plane. But even on a physical plane, we can see that, suns are giving life to the universe and black holes are essentially sucking it back in if we believe what the science tells us about them. But again, it's all based on information from another source. It's not based on my knowledge that, like, I am sitting here speaking to you over Zoom. That's an
Hmm.
empirical knowing. It's not something that I can just have faith in believing. I suppose there's an element where we take it all the way back to I'm just in awareness, and it could just be in a jar getting fed signals of information, but that sort of breaks reality a little bit for me.
It does. There is a conspiracy theory that Australia is all set up. So there's plenty of people in the world who do believe I do not exist in that regard.
My father was like that. He was like, I've never been there. I've never been to America. Prove to me it exists. Yeah, I have a firm belief that you're real and that you do exist.
Show
But
you I am.
I know I'm here speaking to something. So that's the shift in it, isn't it? So we touched a little bit on the Swan. Is there anything else that you want to cover in this and get out with the idea that this is going out to the hypnosis and mesmerism community?
If somebody hasn't like done Bob Swan, I really recommend they do it. It's like a 2-day class. You can get his video. I learned it off his video before I brought him out here. Half hour of your life is a pretty interesting
Yeah, I can.
skill set of of what has given me best bang for my buck of being able to look at the hypnosis world through a different mirror. That would be it. It sowed a lot of different seeds of different thoughts of what's happening. Trance not needed.
Yeah.
Communication highest priority, and hypnosis it evolved out of where that communication was. Like Poisiger had communication happening, and that's where it switched from being an energy healing thing to a psychology based thing. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I think communication with the unconscious is huge. Whether it's like just movements in the hand and fingers, or you're getting like direct voice, like skeptical. If you want something to test your skepticism, get some direct voice happening with the Swan or within hypnosis or something like that. And worldviews have to change very quickly because weird shit comes out of people's mouths that would not come out of their mouths normally.
I remember hearing you talking about a story with working with the Swan with yourself, searching for, was it your grandfather's resting
Yeah,
or something like
yeah.
that?
I've found my grandfather's grave, and which was listed online as a like completely different cemetery. Like
Mm.
th- there was nothing in between these two towns back then. like it was Wallsend and West Wallsend, but they're 20 minutes drive away from one another. There's suburbs in between now. And he was listed at West Wallsend. Talking through this, I got, no, it's Wallsend. I didn't think that suburb even had a cemetery because it's what I would have called Shortland, but it's not. It's right on the border of it. I thought the border was way further over. Yeah, he took control of my whole arm, pointed to where his grave was. It's where it was.
And in relation to the effect that something like the Swan has on someone, you know, if you're in a consultation with someone and you start swanning with them, you know, do you think that in itself, there's a story that springs to mind of a chap who'd gone in to see Erickson, and Erickson just sort of nods at the chair and carries on doing what he's doing. And the guy was like, no one had ever said hello to me in that way before. And it was only years later that I realized that was the moment I entered hypnosis. And it's this like, this is new, this isn't normal, I've not experienced this before. So we go into this novel state experience, and that opens us up to learning, the same way as visiting a new city, a new country, or being in an accident, or being on stage in a demonstration, which is what, you know, Rossi's talking about in his Psychobiology of Gene Expression. So it strikes me that this novel state experience is a really important aspect of producing that space to allow healing to happen. And I think that the Swan, for me anyway, has a real profound ability to create that.
It does. I think it's less about like the novel state. Like, this is going to sound dismissive, but I think culturally in the West, uh, the vast majority of people are oblivious to what state they're in at any given time. So I don't think people notice the state shift like you and I would notice people's state shift in dozens of times during an interaction with them. But they're just having an interaction. And what the Swan does is like it's batshit weird phenomena happening that shakes their worldview. So they're not noticing the state of something shifted within me. They're noticing my arm is doing something that
Yeah.
I didn't do. I didn't do that. How did you do that to my arm? I didn't do it to your arm. Like this deeper part of you did it. That's what I said. You just had to allow it to happen. And now we've got contact. We're going to have a chat. And then they sit there and they listen to the unconscious saying yes and no, maybe whatever to like my questions that they know before they walk out the door what kind of support they've got or don't have inside. And so I think it's the first time most people don't feel alone. They know some other part of their consciousness has their back, and it's a glaringly obvious moment that something's happened in this room here, and they couldn't have tricked me into it.
Yeah.
One guy, he did say like, well, maybe this was all placebo, and I just like imagined the man move. And I was like, okay, but placebo is still hypnosis. So like, if I've tricked you into feeling better, like, do you feel better? He's like, yeah. I'm like, then it's good. Let's just keep this. uh, but that was his rational mind trying to take logic of this weird experience that didn't fit reality. He's just trying to put it in a box so he can hide it away in the cupboard. But he couldn't do that without keeping the something wonderful happen.
Yeah.
And so he's looking for a way to keep that. And so everybody, I feel, when they've had a Swan, something wonderful happens with them that they want to be able to keep, no matter how skeptical or disbelieving they are.
Yeah. And like,
And
this is really what I mean by the idea of it creates a novel state. It creates an experience within them that they've not had before. You know, psychedelics do it as well in the way that your brain doesn't know what's going to happen next. So there's this hyper learning state almost appears. But you said something interesting there, this idea of hypnosis being just a placebo. And I'm curious as to what you think of that, because, you know, in the BBC Horizon documentary on the placebo, one of the closing statements is you can think of hypnosis as sort of a non-deceptive mega placebo. And it takes us
Yeah.
to the 16th investigation, doesn't it?
Yes. I think placebo is like hypnosis in action, but I don't think hypnosis is placebo. Uh, like you can have hypnosis without placebo,
Mm.
but you can't have placebo without a hypnotic element happening. Like part of your mind has bought a story
Yeah.
that's come from an outside influence. That's
And
that's essentially like my view of hypnosis is it's communication.
mm,
Um, I don't think it needs to be trance based. I just think it's communication with the other, whatever you want to label the other as, and getting a result from that communication. And so placebo thing, it's an unqualified hypnotist doing hypnotic work with sugar.
or
Some people use the extra powerful placebos that are like
yeah,
fake sugar.
then I really like that explanation of hypnosis. And like, one of the reasons that I sort of look at this link between placebo and hypnosis is, that investigation into animal magnetism and them suggesting that this tree's been magnetized instead of this tree that had actually been magnetized. So this is the first figure of authority giving a suggestion that this is the one that's going to heal you rather than this one. So that then, I believe, evolves into suggestive therapeutics and then hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
Are we actually just testing drugs against hypnosis when we're testing them against a placebo?
I believe we are.
Mm.
My firm view, I tell clients all the time, is hypnosis is the most scientifically experimented thing in the world
Yeah.
because of the placebo experiment. Like, how many experiments is that part of?
Yeah.
The power of the unconscious is the most tested thing we've got because it's the thing we don't have control of that we would like control of as a population. As hypnotists, we do have control of in in a way. In the old view, it was like we have control over.
Mm.
In the current view of hypnosis, I think it's we've got influence with by interacting
Yeah.
in an ethical way to create a win-win situation.
A consciousness dance, so to speak.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Uh,
interesting as well when we look at this sort of the science of medicine. Obviously, has had an influence from the placebo and suggestive therapeutics, but also psychology, like the whole field of psychology, the fathers of which were using hypnosis to study the mind. So this is like, if we take in mesmerism and energy healing into this suggestive therapeutics sort of genre, it goes all the way back to every culture around the world doing laying of hands and sleep temples and all of these sort of things, doesn't it?
it does, and I I have questions as well, just with that like experiment of like the trees.
Mm,
Uh, I have an animist framework
mhm,
of mind. Like things are inspirited. Like I can feel energy of different things. Some things have got way more energy than others. If energy holds consciousness, these things have things I've communicated with different non-human living things,
mm.
which makes me feel retarded. But
So,
things happen based on it that make me go, well, the world is just weird. Um, but so if you've had a suggestion, that tree is magnetized and you'll get healed. This one isn't, but secretly I got a guy to magnetize that one.
mm,
Uh, there's a suggestion that's going to help make this tree work,
mm,
but there's also these people going up to this tree saying, "Hey, tree, heal me."
mm.
And the tree has got energy,
Yeah,
and it's the one being asked. So it's like, okay, I wasn't magnetized by that guy, but I've got more energy than that guy anyway, and I've got connection to the same source energy that that guy's got. So here you go.
yeah,
Uh, so that I find is an extremely flawed thing. If it was like a telegraph pole and a telegraph pole,
yeah,
that would be a better test.
yeah.
But a living, breathing thing like a tree,
Exactly. And there's the wood wide web as well, the mycelial network that connects all the trees that are in a forest and things like that as well. So, could that energy just have been transferred from one tree to the whole forest?
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot of flaws in that particular study. And I think anyone that's seriously done any healing work with energy will understand that there is something in, even if it's just somatic suggestion, like I call it, it's a whisper to the central nervous system. And one of the ways I explain it to the sort of the scientifically inclined is that this is creating a monoideistic focus within your body. It's bypassing your conscious mind, it's bypassing your language center and going straight into the body mind and producing a monoideistic focus within the body, which causes a deep trance to happen and allows us to do the healing work. It's a different frame that we can present this with that I quite like using at times. And the whisper to the central nervous system, I think, is a nice way of putting it. Because, I mean, we do feel heat.
Yes.
And like there's, the push, the psychic push that magicians do that's done with various different techniques. There's like the string through the hand. You done this? Yeah. So
I haven't done it.
if I'm playing with someone and going like, can you feel this? If they go, no, I go, your body can. Your conscious mind just isn't aware of it yet. So I'd like you to focus on your hand and tell me, can you feel this now? And that seems to open it up and allow them to start to give themselves permission to feel it. And from there, they can start to feel the passes, and you can feel the difference between this and not connecting it. And that's the one that gets is like, for me, is like, can you feel this? And then can you feel this? And is there a difference between the two? And they can feel there's less energy when that connection is not made. So I think there's interesting things go on. And I've seen quite a few good hypnotists are using passes. They're doing nonverbal stuff that we would class as mesmerism. They're using eye fixation, they're using passes, all of these things. But they're just doing it intuitively. And this sort of brings us back to the idea of the intuitive healer, doesn't it?
Yes. I think as well as the intuitive thing, there's unconscious learning happening. Like they've watched and they've modeled other healers, and part of their unconscious has noticed there's this other thing that's happening. Whether they're noticing body movements of that or they've been in the presence of somebody else and their unconscious that's connected with that energy went, oh, this guy did that thing to us.
Mm.
I wonder if we can do that, even if he's not like directing that. Can my energy in its background do the energy healing thing? I think that happens with some people. Like you have people that get comments that they've been doing something energy healing like that they didn't know they're doing. Like I'll always have like somebody in every one or two Reiki classes, there'll be somebody who's either a support worker or a hairdresser or a beautician or a massage therapist, something that they've had constant feedback. They're learning energy healing because apparently they do this and they don't know what's happening because their hands are on somebody with an intent to make them feel better. And their energy system's gone, I know a thing. Let's just do this thing. So I think that's happening a lot with a lot of these hypnotists, and they're getting some body movements with that because they're observing what these people do, and that it seems to make sense. And some of them, it's like quite generational. That like they've learnt off this person who did energy, who learnt off this person who did energy, who like the person who they learned off thought energy was bullshit, but they do it.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
my dad used
just
to, my mum's arthritis when I was a kid, and speak to the trees and ask for this branch, knock down the bracken to stop the ticks getting us and stuff like that. Like, no, you have to ask the tree and don't expect an answer in words, expect a feeling that maybe this isn't the right tree, maybe that tree's the one to ask, and things like that. So,
yeah, and like I stayed with Justin Trance, and he was doing some stuff. I'm like, I didn't know he was into mesmerism. He's like, I'm not.
Hmm.
But it started off Orman McGill,
yeah.
who had some mesmeric influences. And so he's modeled this thing he saw this guy do, but didn't know the extra layer underneath of what was happening.
Mm.
Um, I would be certain his body in the background, energetic, would be doing some stuff like that. But consciously, he's not doing energy based things. He's just like doing suggestions with his body that match exactly what a mesmerist would do.
Yeah. This is why I like this idea of like branding it for the modern times as somatic suggestion. And if we teach them that, then the energy will follow where the intent and will goes. So it sort of ties back into a framework that we can use to help people construct that belief system that this is actually working and that they can do this.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to cover before I ask you if you have a little gift for viewers/listeners? Because I know we spoke about this a couple of months ago of something that you could share. I don't know if. Thank you very much for having a chat with me today. It's been
Carry on. Pleasure as always.
Yeah. Thank you again. Thank you for making it to the end. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you watching, listening. Give us a like and a follow. This is going to be a regular thing. Probably every couple of weeks we'll put out a new podcast. And yeah, there's going to be loads of cool stuff on here. But if you want to check out what Lance gave us at the end there, then join the free community on School. It should be linked somewhere in the description of this podcast, whether you're watching or listening. But if you need to find it, it's hypnosis. So school.com/hypnosis. Nice and easy. And if you go into there on the free tier, you'll find Classroom. Go into the Classroom and you'll find In-Sanity podcast. And that will give you the episodes and the gifts that various people are going to be leaving as they come on the show, if they decide they want to share something. Most of them, I think, will, though. So check it out there. Give us a like and share. Hit the bell button. Really appreciate that for the algorithm. And hopefully see you on the next one. Stay insane.